Hi, I'm Nahani, and I'm going to introduce you to the speakers at Camp Disclosure. Today, I'm talking to Simon Esler. Simon is a full disclosure activist. Among many things, he's currently producing a weekly series called Worlds Within on Edge of Wonder TV. Now, his talk on metaphysical activism is so inspiring for anyone wanting to expand their awareness and ability to be of service energetically at this time. He also does kids yoga.
I just watched your video on metaphysical activism. Are you going to talk about that at the conference?
Yeah, I think it's going to be some more material along the path of metaphysical activism. I think specifically, I'd like to focus on the way free will relates to states of awareness. It's going to be a focus on that and on how free will is only expressed within particular states of consciousness, basically. That there's so much social engineering, there's so much mind control going on, that unless you are rising into more subtle states of being, you're not even on a plane to express your free will. Our ability to transform everything we come in contact with is really, really remarkable, right? If you just look at this from the perspective of quantum physics and the notion that the observer is constantly affecting what they're observing, right? That your consciousness arriving on something actually alters the state of that. So, I mean, this is an ancient idea. Sure, it's newer in quantum physics, but this is an ancient shamanic concept. So that comes back to this subtle capacity. So if we're looking to, let's say, like you're explaining that when you're dealing with something like entities, you're a path for that being to evolve. You're a path to the light, but this is subtle work. So if we can move into that subtlety, then we're able to start to perceive how it is that consciousness affects things and how it is that your consciousness alters your reality. And one of the things that I'm learning is that we're not trying to manipulate the timeline and create like the timeline we believe is the best timeline. It's actually that we're trying to soften the timeline. We're trying to move into states of non-attachment, of quietude, and of service that soften the timeline and give space for free will to be expressed, rather than like a congealed, like harder timeline, which is really what like the Luciferian agenda is about. It's about solidifying our timeline without us realizing it's been solidified. So how can we soften the timeline? And that gets deeply into states of consciousness and being able to not only achieve those states of consciousness in a meditation practice, but how do you apply that to your daily life? How do you apply that level of devotion to your daily life so that you're perpetually just softening the timeline and interfering with it less? Because we've really been coerced into perpetually interfering with everything around us. And so from my perspective, so much of this is about stepping back and practicing non-interference and states of consciousness that are so subtle that they don't interfere with everything around us. Then the natural expression of what is going on arises, and then we can actually be of service to natural circumstances and not be attempting to manipulate everything around us.
So good. Right on. Love it. You were onto the Q phenomenon at the very beginning?
Yes. Yeah, right at the start. And it's a really interesting topic, actually. For people to actually really discuss Q is fascinating, because people don't need to believe in Q. All that needs to be talked about is the Q proofs, basically. And this is what I always advocate for. I think Q is probably one of the most successful awakening operations in history. I mean, I look at the actual numbers, and it's incredible. The number of people that have awoken to our reality through Q is staggering. It's millions of people. So, the warfare-based operation was more successful at awakening people than the truther communities have been. So, how do we learn from that? How do we find peaceful ways to translate that and generate that level of success. You know, there's a lot to be learned there.
So what will you be doing at the conference? I see you're doing kids yoga. So are you going to do a talk and kids yoga because you're bringing your kids?
Yeah, so I have 3 offerings at this conference. One is going to be a kids yoga session. So I'm trained in kids yoga and kids meditations. I'm going to be creating a heart-based kids yoga session, which is really going to be about teaching children ways to land in the heart space, and how to do that through story and theme. And that's basically the training that I have for kids yoga, is how you take story and theme and weave a meditation yoga journey into that story.
I have kids. How old can the kids be? Can they be larger kids?
Yeah, I mean, the larger kids they'd be great to have around, because they actually would probably be able to support the little kids, because really there's going to be some collaboration. So the way that I'll do it, some of it will be creating group poses, and some of it will be about finding characters within a story together. So it'll create some space for age range there. So that's what I'm going to be offering the kids. My workshop is going to be about gazing techniques. The technique of gazing inwardly and the techniques of gazing outwardly, and how we can apply those to meditations and to daily life. And then my talk is going to be an expansion on my teachings on metaphysical activism, and it's going to get really deeply into the relationship between states of consciousness, free will, and how to support humanity's great awakening by reconciling the relationship between states of consciousness and free will.
Wow, that's amazing. And I will be there for everything.
Well, it should be a good time. We represent Toronto.